Hello, everyone. Welcome to our day early comic review show. I'm
I'm
Jason,
Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So every Tuesday, after we're done bagging and boarding and sorting the multitudes of new comics that come in, Andy and I divide up what we think are the ones that most people are interested in. Some of them are our guilty pleasure, the ones
Yeah,
that
we
we're
know
waiting to read.
we know who goes with some of them. Like Star Wars usually comes my
That
way.
that's
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I've been pulling all the Infinity
yeah,
stuff, and and Batman, of course.
yes.
So every week we divide those up, we read them, and we do this spoiler light review show. We feel it's important to tell everyone more about what's going on in these comics than you're going to get from the 1 to 5 sentence solicitation lines. But at the same time, we don't want to take all the fun out of reading them. So we'll let you know if there's a first appearance, if there's a major death. We'll tell you about the art. We'll tell you the general plot line, but we'll make sure that it's still a lot of fun if you decide to read it on your own.
Hmm.
So, pretty decent sized week. As you can see in front of us, these are some of the ones we'll be going over first. We have many off to the side. We'll also be showing variants, we'll be showing incentives. I think a lot of you have seen the show before, so you know the drill.
Hmm.
So, Andy, what are you starting with this week?
I'm starting with the one that I took home last night to read because I couldn't wait.
Has to be Star
Is
Wars.
Star Wars Crimson Reign #1. So this is the pseudo follow up to War of the Bounty Hunters. Now, what I feel like after reading this is War of the Bounty Hunters introduced Kira back into the Star Wars universe, and it was it was mainly focused on Boba Fett, and you had Luke, and they're all trying to get Han out of Carbonite. This is basically like, okay, we reintroduced Kira to you, and the idea of Crimson Dawn. Now let's follow that road. So this doesn't involve really many of the characters you're used to seeing, and I think that's really cool. So it begins in a very interesting way. Like, I'm a Star Wars fanatic, so I will like rip apart and dissect every little bit. And this begins with a narration. This is actually telling you the story of Crimson Dawn and this Crimson Reign uh, arc, and we'll see how far it goes after that. Um, and we learned that the narrator is a new character called the Archivist. We don't know much about her. I didn't look at it. I should have went back and looked at War the Bounty Hunters #5 because there was the big scene where Kira was addressing all of these new characters. I assume the Archivist was in that scene, but I would consider this a first appearance and that a cameo. So there are some really interesting new characters in this. You learn a lot about them, but you find out what is Kira's motivation for doing everything she did in War of the Bounty Hunters in this. And it's not a spoiler to say her main goal is freedom. And she basically says, we can't have, you all think you're free, you're these like rogue agents, but none of us are free as long as Palpatine and Vader are ruling over the galaxy. So she's less of like, she's not a bad guy. She basically has the same motivations as the rebellion.
Hmm.
She just wants to go about it a different way. This is really cool. You learn in this what her, like how far Crimson Dawn has been integrated into the galaxy, what their plans are, and she has a mission for kind of each of the little groups that she addresses in that are really cool. I don't want to give them away, but you of course have the Knights of Ren. This is before we know anything about them from the Rise of Kylo Ren miniseries. You have a new group called the Orphans, or something Orphans, because one of the droids actually goes, it would be better if we were called the Orphans, but it's Orphans something.
Hmm.
And they are another team of kind of rebellion, uh, freedom fighters that are kind of a little bit shadier than your normal ones. And you've got, of course, Deathstick and Ochi of Bestoon. You have all of the cast, and you find out the jobs that Kira is going to give them. So big things in this. I wrote basically like a mini review on my thing, but it's just some key things I want to mention. There's a mention of a character that we have not seen in the current canon a expanded universe character. The only mention, because I was like, surely they've popped up in Clone Wars or something at some point. The only place this character has popped up is in a cookbook where their name is a joke in one of the titles of the dishes. So that is the only thing. It is a very big character. I'll even say we have a figure of this character hanging on our wall out there. So big expanded universe fans will be happy to see that. There is some knowledge that maybe Crimson Dawn knows that some of the Jedi there's some Jedi in exile, which is really cool, and you find out maybe what their plan about that is. Overall, I thought this was a really strong first issue to this miniseries. This actually seems like it's going to be pretty important to the Star Wars mythos going forward. For big Star Wars fans, when they read this, they'll pick up a lot of the subtleties that I won't go into here. That'll be on my separate, completely Star Wars driven show I'll do eventually. But in it also kind of paints this, since it is being narrated, that this may be about the great rise of Crimson Dawn, but maybe its fall as well, as it's mentioned that this is actually a tragedy. So I'm expecting a lot of craziness to go on in this, a lot of ups and downs and betrayals and all of that, and see how maybe this ties in with the greater Star Wars universe, which definitely has the potential to affect quite a bit when you see some of the key locations and other things in this.
Yeah, Andy was very excited reading this one. Afterwards, he told me all about it.
I just threw all these random names at you and places and things, and
I'm a big Star Wars fan too, but I'm a broad stroke Star Wars
Yeah.
fan. Andy knows he's the one that passes on the important details and tells me the upcoming things. So.
Yeah, so big things about this. Major first appearances of characters, even though they may have cameoed in the previous miniseries. Mention of a pretty significant character, and it's not. One time I was like, okay, this is just a nice nod to a character. The character's brought up again later, where I think this is something we're going to see pretty heavily at some point, whether in comics or somewhere else. And yeah, there's what it teases about what each of these characters' jobs is going to be. I think is also going to be really cool to see play out. So I think that is, I mean, my selfish pick of the week. My, of course, why wouldn't it be for me? But it was legitimately really good. If you're reading Star Wars books, highly recommend you pick it up. So we have a lot of variants for this. Of course, we have the Anadito connecting variant. This is the one we talked about before in Comics from the Future, that this does not look like a connecting variant, but when you see the rest of them, it's really cool and has some really cool characters that are going to be featured on it. We have the Raza Knights of Ren variant in that crimson color. This one's really cool. This is the FAM Syndicate variant. I'm guessing each of the issues may have a different crime syndicate featuring on the cover. We have they're calling this one the Warriors of Dawn variant. So I'm interested to see what the next ones are going to have featured on it, because Kira's on this one, but we'll see who else gets their headshot on it. We have the Crane variant. Really cool Darth Vader. Then we have some of the incentives. So we have a 1 in 25 Sabak variant that we're selling to our customers for $20.
I remember playing that game.
In Knights of the Old Republic, I played a lot of that, trying to get money.
You need it, yeah.
It's just like a weird modified version of blackjack, but where numbers can go up and down. Then we have the 1 in 50 Cummings variant. So a lot of these characters on the cover appear in there. But there's one or two on there that don't, and I'll be interested to see how they weave into it.
One to our customers for?
This one is $80. Okay. And I definitely think this is going to be a pretty big. It's one of those, like, let's wait and see what these characters do but I think this is going to be a pretty big one people are going to be talking about.
Okay, so my first one is Batman number 118. Now, this is a real big deal because James Tynion is no longer on Batman. He has left it to the very capable hands of Joshua Williamson with art by Jorge Molina. And I'll just say, I mean, from the first page, everything about this is different. The way it reads, the dialogue, maybe more than anything, the art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the art style is a much more, I guess, contemporary comic style.
Yeah.
It doesn't have sort of the manga leanings
Mm-hmm.
that it had, which some people liked a lot and some people didn't. You know, some people's cup of chai and some people didn't prefer it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the art in this is really, really good. Really clear, really classic style art, done really well. And so what's going on now? So in this issue, Gotham's having a big party. Why are they having a party? Because Fear State is over. The Scarecrow's arrested. The Magistrate has been taken down. Someone mentions it, and I believe Oracle, that Gotham's had it really bad the last few years. And to me, that's her nod that everything leading up to Future State, you never know how long things are going on. You don't know what time is passing in between the comics and in between the panels. I think they're just saying, hey, all that was years and years. We're through all the Future State stuff. Where did Dark Detective happen? Nobody knows. Let's not worry about that. However, Magistrate looks like they are finished, and Joshua Williamson has totally different stories that he wants to tell, and I think that's a new writer's prerogative. I think that's great. So more on that, you get some of Tynion's characters sort of head out of town. He takes some of the Tynion people, and it's like, hey, where are they going? Oh, they're leaving Gotham to go do this other thing. And it's like, okay, that clears the slate so you don't have to wonder where they are, which makes a lot of sense. So as Gotham is having this big celebration, which it's really nice seeing Gotham people smiling for once and fireworks and everything's happy.
They can't last for long.
Correct. You find out that the billionaires of Gotham are having their own separate party, but it's a theme party. What is the theme? Villains, because that's
poor taste, Gotham.
Exactly, very bad taste. So they're all dressed up like the Joker and Punchline. It's pretty amusing, but you get to see a lot of that good art. Well, of course, with the billionaires doing this, it's almost too easy for a real villain not to crash that party, and for Batman to have to show up and protect these people that he's kind of mad at for doing this sort of thing. It's a pretty amusing scene to get the story rolling. Now, where it goes, though, that's not what the book's about. That's just sort of a get it rolling part. Is Batman learns some news that really scares him. I'm not going to tell you what. You got to read it. But the news makes him go communication dark, like totally off communication. He's like, I'm done with communication for 48 hours. It's a big deal when Batman, he's not going to talk to Oracle. He's not going to talk to anyone. It has something to do with Batman Inc. Now, Batman Inc. is an international Batman group that Bruce Wayne used to fund. Now, I say used to fund because they haven't been around for a while, but also it is now canon as of this issue. Bruce Wayne hasn't had money in a while.
Yeah.
So he can't be funding
He hasn't been paying his membership dues.
Correct. So Batman Incorporated, they're a team of 5 people. They are Dark Ranger, the Hood, El Gacho, Batman of China, and Man of Bats. So if you're not familiar with these characters, don't worry. You don't have to know them yet. You can tell that they're easing us in to learn more about them because the plot is headed that way. So something's gone down with them that has really shaken Batman. He needs to go deal with this immediately. And the other question I'll pose here is, if Bruce Wayne isn't funding Batman Inc., who is? Why are they even doing anything at all? And by the end of this issue, you will learn who is funding Batman Inc., and it is a major character from a different superhero comic who you don't really see in Batman too often. So major character. There is also the first appearance of a new villain named Abyss. Now, this new villain may continue to be around. Hopefully, it's weird. It's really hard for me to talk about this one. When you read it, you'll go, oh, huh. But I will say the next issue, I think the plot line title of next issue has Abyss in the title.
Yeah.
And the character, it's like one of those things you've talked about. When enough art has been put into the character, enough design, you know this is an important character. This character has a really, really cool design. I don't know if it's going to be considered first full because there's no dialogue, but the character is seen in several panels. They're flashback panels though, but seen in multiple panels. So that's sort of the skinny on Batman 118. An excellent first issue by Joshua Williamson and Jorge Molina. I especially like the Molina art. Like if you're on the fence about this, if your store is the sort where you're allowed to open the comic just to look at a page, check out the art. I think it's gonna hook.
It's the
back
kind of
in.
art that you open it and you say, like, it's the kind of art they put on big books. Like,
Yes.
when they have big event
Top
books and
tier
stuff, you're like, this is a
book.
top tier art book.
Yeah, it's really great. So speaking of great, check out this Bogdanovich variant in honor of course, Todd McFarlane.
Mm-hmm.
Got that homage. So people have been talking about this one since it was announced, and it is here. So this is just the regular variant. It should be regular price at your shop. However, there's also a 1 in 25 virgin variant that we are selling to our clients for $25. And I think I do prefer it. Sometimes I like the title there, and other times the virgin variant art looks better. And I mean,
that's the cover that they originally, it was going to be a 1 in 25, and so many people liked it. They're like, we're going to make this open order and make something else bigger.
And then here is the 1 in 50 Jock variant. We're selling to our customers for $40. You think this thing looks shiny on camera? You should see it in person.
Yeah, it is.
You could definitely blind your friends with this one or your foes.
Even Jock's signature on the back, where it kind of shows,
That's right.
is also
I forgot.
really shiny
on the back. Yeah.
I'm surprised they made that. I mean, that is almost like a 1 in 200 variant or something.
It's very nice.
It's very nice. Okay, so my next one is another really big event book this week, and it also has the title or the word rain in it. We have Crimson Rain, and now we have Devil's Rain. So I'm sure people have heard about this. This is the, I don't want to say continuation or capstone or whatever of Chip Zdarsky's run on Daredevil. Because, to be honest, I haven't read all of that. I've picked up some of the volumes of it, but I haven't got around to reading it. I don't know why I haven't, because I love Chiquetto's art in this. It is incredible. So this is me coming at this being like, I didn't read any of the previous stuff. I just kind of know, okay, he was in jail for a little while. You know, Elektra took over being Daredevil. And I had no problem jumping into this.
A lot of stuff going on with Kingpin during that run, too.
So, I mean, I knew, going into this, I knew Kingpin as mayor.
Right.
You've got Elektra as Daredevil, and you've got Matt Murdock as Daredevil. They're both Daredevil right now. And that's about it. But this eases you in really well to show you, it gives you a flashback. And there was an event that happened where people found out that Matt Murdock was Daredevil. That was a big story. Well, using some method, I won't give away what it is, and if people haven't read it, because it was kind of a surprise to me, Matt Murdock managed to erase everyone's memories of him being Daredevil, so he can get his secret identity back. But I guess what he didn't know is Fisk had a file that basically was called Daredevil's Secret Identity. Like, it is straight up just, this is what this is. And he opens it up and is blank pieces of paper. And so Kingpin, who's now mayor, he's just Wilson Fisk, knows that somebody has messed with his mind. And who does he blame? Daredevil, his number one go-to guy.
That's a pretty good suspicion this time, considering this file that literally says, this is who Daredevil is, and it's just blank.
Yes. So, this Devil's Reign is basically Kingpin attacking back. And how is he going to do that? He is going to, and we've seen this concept before, but this is kind of a new way of doing it. He is outlawing superheroes in New York. And he says he hopes the rest of the country follows him in outlawing them. He even brings up the outlawed storyline they had where superheroes under the age of 16 or whatever couldn't couldn't be out. He brings it up and is like, I thought that was a good idea. I'm going to take it even further. And you get in this, just like you see on the cover, how does this affect a lot of your New York-based superheroes? So we see Moon Knight. We see the Fantastic Four. We see Captain America is in the city at the time. And how all of these basically come into conflict with Kingpin's new enforcers he's created. And you'll have to see who they are. I won't give it away. But of course, who does Kingpin have on speed dial? Probably not the greatest of people, and he's going to make them his enforcers. So super cool. You see where a lot of the tie-in books are going to come in, but it's not done in a way that's like it's selling it to you. They feel like natural parts of the story. Like one of them we know is going to be Doc Ock going into the Baxter building with the Fantastic Four and messing with some stuff there. We see him come into the building and their initial confrontation. We know there's going to be a Moon Knight tie-in, and we see how Moon Knight is involved in this. But this is all going to be, essentially, it seems, about how are they going to overturn this? Are they going to... I mean, this is a official act of the mayor.
Right.
So how do you beat the mayor?
Yep. Maybe
not with fists, but in politics. Really cool thing with that. And kind of a big, like, this isn't over. Kingpin may have even more going on. So great first issue. The art was incredible. The character interactions are really cool because I'm not used to seeing Daredevil interact with Spider-Man and Captain America, and kind of what is their current camaraderie like. So yeah, this is a 6-part miniseries with a bunch of tie-ins. Seems like if you just want to read this, that's fine, but this definitely intrigues me for a lot of the tie-ins too. So that is Daredevil, Devil's Reign, #1.
And as far as Wilson Fisk's enforcers, I've been reading its first appearance of a new team.
Yes,
it has different iterations.
Yeah,
a team of anti-heroes.
It's first like incarnation of these characters coming together for this
for Wilson Fisk's version of them.
Yeah,
So
and it's really fun. I think it's even getting a tie-in, maybe miniseries or something that will be really cool to see.
And this is a team that a lot of people have been. There's a lot of rumors they're going to make their way into the MCU.
Okay, yeah.
I'll say.
And
I know because I have a lot of their first appearance snuck away.
I was about to say, and
rumors.
not talking way too long about this book, but the characters they set up in this, some of them I could definitely see MCU versions of. But there's, of course, a lot of variants for it that are really nice. So first off, we have the Bagley connecting variant. We have, of course, a Peach Momoko. I'll say Elektra doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue or anything in this, but she's there pretty much through the entire thing. I think she's going to play a bigger part once we get past the setup phase. We have a red blank sketch variant. Then we have the 1 in 25 In-Hyuk Lee variant that we are selling to our customers for $20. It's pretty great too, because Daredevil even makes the comment, like when they learned that Kingpin's retaliating against him, he's like, I kind of made fun of him and goaded him on, and this is what I get for that. Like, he kind of knows it's his fault, which I thought was really funny.
All right, so Captain America and Iron Man have a new miniseries. They've been friends, fellow Avengers. They've been enemies. They've been on different sides of the same Civil War, and so it's time for them to have another little miniseries where it's just the two of them. Lately Captain America went on his road trip with Falcon. He ended up with Winter Soldier and Nomad and everybody all together. This time it's just Cap and Iron Man. But what brings them together? There is this girl. Her name is Veronica Eden. And as much as this book is called Captain America and Iron Man, this first issue is mostly about this character, Veronica Eden. She's not a new character, however. She was, I think first in the Falcon Winter Soldier miniseries that happened a little while back.
Mm-hmm.
But we're learning more about her. So to tell you about her, she knows Tony Stark because she tried to get a job with him, and they ended up um, closer than that, at least for a night. And through all that, he ends up getting her a job interview with Shield. Now this is in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets a job with Shield, but in the Falcon Winter Soldier miniseries, she's actually a mole for Hydra. She's stealing Shield information, giving it to Hydra in a bid to rise her position. She's actually has the idea to become the head of Hydra, and she nearly pulls it off in that series.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to see a little bit more of her past in this. Where she's at in the present of the series is she's getting sentenced and she's getting sent to prison forever and ever and ever. Of course, she has her own plans though. So there is a prison break on her way, and Tony Stark shows up to try to stop it. Captain America shows up to try to stop it, where Tony realizes he knows her. Cap doesn't so much. He does a little bit, but really Tony has the link to her. So much of this comic is told through her narration. So like I said, as much as it's a Captain America Iron Man book, it's mostly about her, and she's an interesting villain in that she thinks that superheroes and supervillains are all sort of too high-minded. That she has a simple plan, a simple vision, and if she's just tough enough, she can get it done. So she appears to be sort of the villain of this. And it seems like she still has some pretty strong Hydra ties, and it's going to be up to Captain America and Iron Man to stop her. However, one more little monkey wrench that gets thrown into it is another superhero team shows up. Sort of a new team, not one that I'm familiar with. They're called the Paladins.
Mm.
And they help, or they try to help, but they also get in the way. So it looks like Cap and Iron Man are going to have to deal with this new team being around, and are they worth it, or are they just liabilities? While she has her machinations going on. Next issue promises that she has a very powerful ally who's going to come into play that's going to really make it a lot harder on Captain America and Iron Man. So that's sort of a rundown, because I had no idea what to expect getting into this. That's generally more of what this is about. So interesting, you know, she's not a new character, but definitely more explored character of this Veronica Eden. So we got these two sort of MCU variants. They're doing a series of variants that are sort of based around MCU. They're called the
Infinity Saga.
The Infinity Saga variants. That's it. So here's one of them with Captain America and Red Skull. And then, of course, Iron Man's not going to have second billing. There he is in his Infinity Saga variant. But there's one other as well. There's this Patrick Gleason Stormbreakers variant. And lastly, we have 1 in 25 Jurgens variant for $30. And I mean, the main cover itself is an Alex Ross cover, which I'm always happy to see that anytime they get him to do anything.
Spared no expense on that book.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is a book that did very well for issue 1.
Yeah.
So, and I loved it. High praise. We sold through a ton of them. That is Dark Knights of Steel. This is issue number 2. So this is, of course, by Tom Taylor and art by Yasmin Putri. And it is if you didn't read the first one, a kind of reimagining of the DC universe, but during a medieval time. No real if Superman crashed in, the Dark Ages, it's kind of just like a separate universe that's more medieval. And we learned in the first one that when Superman crash landed on Earth, he wasn't alone. His parents managed to get off Krypton also. And because, now you have adults with superpowers, like they get out and they immediately have superpowers, they become essentially the royalty of this place. Like some people see them as gods. They're the great House of El, the Kingdom of El. And of course that would also make it where you have enemies. So this issue picks up right where the last one left off, like literally like a second later. And I don't necessarily want to give away the spoiler of the first issue, but there is a major death, a major member of this kingdom is assassinated by, I mean, not a spoiler if you just read comics, that it's this version of Green Arrow. Like, they get shot with a green arrow. And this sends Bruce Wayne, who is the Dark Knight, out hunting for who did this. So Bruce and Kal-El in this have a very interesting relationship. If you read the first one, you know that they are maybe even a little bit closer than adopted brothers, but they may not both know that. And this is cool because we get a wider view of this world. We see the other kingdoms and what they think of this kingdom of El, and they don't necessarily like, maybe there shouldn't be people this more powerful. The other kingdom, and we've seen on some of the covers and everything, is actually the king of it is this universe's version of Black Lightning, which I think is a really interesting choice of a character to put up there. But you learn about that kingdom. We find out that there is a Paradise Island in this, island of the Amazons, and how maybe they figure into this. But this one act that happened in the first issue seems to be leading to a multi-kingdom war with some of your favorite DC characters reimagined as like the heads of these kingdoms. There is potentially a first appearance in this. This is, you may have seen news articles about this character. It is a new member of the L family, I'll say that. And they have a particular relationship with Wonder Woman. So that is a big thing. They have a new name. They may look familiar, but it is a new character that, after all my research, cannot find where this character has appeared in any other version. So, great issue, great. I'm so excited. It's funny when you like a series so much, you're glad it's like, oh, this is 12 issues. Great. Like, I want to see where this goes. I want as much stuff to be shown in this weird world. But that is Dark Knights of Steel #2, highly recommended. And we are sold out of the variant. You'll find today that some people are really into DC, and of course we sell DC on Tuesday.
Right.
And one of the books I would be going over is Superman Son of Kal-El Annual, but we are completely sold out of it. I went to grab my copy to read, and we are cleaned out. Not surprising, but still pretty crazy.
So many people just signed up on that book in the last month, and they had us order it so far out.
Yes. So that is, if you don't see us talk about that one, that's what happened to that. But
it is out this week.
But it is
Superman Kal-El Annual, so look for it at your store. And we have place to reorder, so you might even look for it at our store. If you shop with us
just give us a little bit.
Yeah, a few more days. Okay, so I read Lunar Room #1. This is from Vault Comics. This is their sort of big indie #1 release of the week. Do you like magic? Do you like technology? And do you like lycanthropy? All in the same book.
Do you like lycanthropy?
They pack a lot of stuff in this book. I mean, so much it made my head spin. So much I wish it could have been more of a double issue.
Yeah.
Because it is all in there as far as there. So our main characters, we've got this. Our two main characters is Cynthia Breaker. That's her name. She goes by the name Sin, and the other character is named Zach Zero. So if you like those comic booky names, they're definitely in this one. So who is Cynthia Breaker? She used to be a mob enforcer in this world of technology and magic. But she's kind of seen as washed up. She doesn't think of herself as that way, but a lot of other people think she's sort of a has-been. Now, the other character I mentioned, Zach Zero, he is a magician, and he needs protection. He has some stuff going on. Part of this book has a little bit of a heist that I'm not exactly sure how it all figures in yet, but there is a heist. Most of the book takes place at what I would call a monster fight club. I mean, we had people fighting banshees. As to what this place is it a gym? Is it like really a fight club? I was unsure, but it was definitely, if you're there, you better have some powers and you better be ready. And this is the place where Cynthia gets called out by a lot of people who just call her washed up. And she gets challenged to a fight because she's so angry. And Zach is there. They have not met yet. He basically wants her to protect him, and he's willing to help her with his magic regain some of her old powers. What might that be? Well, the book's called Lunar Room, and I haven't mentioned the lycanthropy as far as the story goes, so I think that that's probably where it's going to figure in. If you read the story, you will see it does figure in by the end. So that's a little bit more on it. Once again, if you like your comics where it's just a mashup of a lot of different sort of power sources, magic, and tech and all that, I think that's what they're going for here. But at the end of the first issue, it left me sort of breathless. Like I'm gonna have to read another few issues to feel like I really have my footing as to where they're going with all this. So that's my little write up review on Lunar #1 or Lunar Room #1. Here is some variants. This is the Howl variant. That's not spelled like a werewolf howling.
Oh man,
it's more like Thurston Howell the Third. if you know Gilligan's Island. Then we have the 1 in 5 Gooden variant that we are selling for $10. Then we have the 1 in 10 Pace variant for $15.
if you look at all these variants, they should be able to piece together the Lunar Room idea.
Yeah. And here is the 1 in 25 Dawn variant that we're selling for $25. And the last one, the 1 in 50 Wolf variant for $45.
So, you didn't think I was done talking about Star Wars yet? No, you can't. You can't stop me. We have Star Wars number 19. So, Star Wars number 19 is, I would say, a pretty good jumping on point. We have finished up the Crimson Dawn, or the War of the Bounty Hunters story, and we're heading into the Crimson Dawn. And we do hear a little hint of that. There's actually what's going on in Crimson Dawn #1 is mentioned in this, but it is so far in the background that the text is actually fading out because Luke is not paying attention to what they're saying, which I thought was really funny. So this is exploring, since the events of War of the Bounty Hunters, where Luke had a chance to go up against Vader. They were both there, they sensed each other, and Luke turned and fled. He has realized in this issue that he needs more training, and he needs to maybe seek out some of those places that have Jedi artifacts or whatever that he can train, because he knows his confrontation with Vader is inevitable and he needs to prepare for it, which I'm really excited about. We've gotten a lot of Empire stuff, we've gotten a lot of War of the Bounty Hunters, the crime and everything, but it's cool to get back to your more traditional Jedi mysticism stuff in this. So this is kind of a I don't want to say a fan service issue, but Luke goes planet hopping to places that has significance for the Jedi, and you see a lot of places that are like, oh yeah, that place. And some of them are really, really cool. So there is planets that are from Rebels, from Clone Wars, from other comics, maybe some video games, and some movies. And this is our first chance of seeing something from the sequel trilogy from Force Awakens actually play out during this time frame, where you see the workings of something have been going on for a long time, which I think is always cool to see. Some little our characters have interacted with these things before. Also, there is some mentions of some new planets. And I think it's odd because there are some that are so occupied by the Empire that Luke basically flies by and looks and goes, nope, can't stop there. There's too many Imperials. But it gives these planet names, and I was even looking it up, being since all of these are something, what's this one? And there's a planet here that's never been named before in anything. The only reference to it is this issue, but they still felt like it is a significant place for the Jedi, because all the other ones are pretty big locations that made me think maybe we'll see this planet pop up again sometime. The other thing is, one, we get a mention of a Jedi that was from the Darth Vader series, the great Charles Soule Darth Vader series, where it's kind of a callback to that. And also, Luke discovers an artifact that has something pretty cool in it. Somebody talks to him from it that you'll just have to read to see, but really cool, great issue. If you haven't read any of the Star Wars so far, I think this is a cool one to get into. This is kind of back to your traditional Jedi and planet hopping and everything. So I really, really enjoyed Star Wars number 19. Then we have the Sprouse 50th anniversary variant, this time for Rogue One. We've gotten a couple of Rogue One ones recently. Also kind of a pseudo Andor, the new TV show. Kind of like that. We have the, of course, action figure variant by John Tyler Christopher with Lumet, the Ewok. And then finally we have the 1 in 25 Gist variant. We're selling for $35. I think this is an awesome variant. Just kind of the weird old ruins and Luke and everything. So yeah, we are selling that for $35.
So yeah, I'm about to do my next one. It makes me realize there's a lot of good DC reads this week. I already went over Batman 118, which I really liked. I'm about to do One Star Squadron, but in a little while I'll be doing Batman 89, issue 4. But first, One Star Squadron number 1. This was a really good read, a really good first issue. What I like about this is comics, I've always enjoyed the variety of them.
Mm-hmm.
One comic can just be action-packed, one can be slow but make you really think, and others can make you laugh. This is just a really different take, and it's been done before, a superhero group that works for money, and you're always going to get some comedy when it comes to that. So I like that. I like the different take on it. So what is the One Star Squadron? The first thing I'll say about them is, Red Tornado, he's the leader, and he used to be a real legit superhero, but here he is with this sort of rinky-dink crew who does things for money, and somebody's talking to him about it, and he's like, I thought I'd be the next Superman, but, time passes, things change, and he's like, just because you're a hero doesn't mean everyone gets the Justice League treatment.
Yeah.
There's the heroes that are the Justice League, and then there's everybody else, which is nearly everyone in the DC universe. Yeah. And this is sort of the low totem pole end. And you get to see why they're there. A lot of them, it's financial burden. A lot of them, I defeated the hero. I got home, and Bills defeated me. Which I think, many of us out there have been in that situation, or might even still be in that situation, especially when you have a comics addiction like many of us do. But that aside, the group is not called the One Star Squadron. Okay? The book is called that. In fact, that's what they're called behind their backs. Oh. People call them the One Star Squadron because they suck, because they get 1-star reviews. But what they're actually called is Heroes for You. That's what they're called, and I'm not gonna. It's spelled all funny, You'll see with a Z and the number 4. And they make video appearances. They do birthdays, promotional events, private security. If you have the money, you can hire one of them, and it includes Red Tornadoes on the team, Power Girls on the team. There's a character like Hour Man, but he's called Minute Man. His powers only work for 1 minute at a time. Mm-hmm. So that's, a big joke. But the whole comic is not a joke. There's a lot of humor to it, a lot of dark humor to it. But Red Tornado is really trying, and he's really having some conflict, some existential conflict on how did it come to this. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he has mouths to feed and people to take care of. In fact, one of the plots of this is there's some old washed-up hero in the hospital with Alzheimer's, it seems like, or some sort of mental problem where his memory's messed up. they dump him on the doorstep where the One Star Squadron's base is. And Red Tornado takes him in to figure out who he is. He realizes this person has no one and how tough it is to be a forgotten hero. So there are some parts of this book that are serious for sure, amongst all the humor. The last part I'll say is you get to also find out why Power Girl's there. You know, I mean, she is a pretty close to A-list superhero.
Yeah.
Why is she there? You find out why, and it turns out she has her own plans for the group and what she's going to be doing. It's sort of some of the surprise ending has to do with what the Power Girl's up to. So very strong first issue, 6-issue miniseries. I really liked it a lot. It's just different. It's like one of those comics. If you got the extra cash and you want a different read, I would grab the first issue. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all.
Now it's, if I'm not wrong, this is like not in just main continuity. This is kind of your classic looking DC universe.
I don't know. I felt main continuity to me, but nothing's happened enough to where it would matter.
Yeah.
But I felt it was for sure main continuity.
Okay.
Yeah. So not certain about that, but I think at
least
is
not
regular.
continuity heavy. So like you could read this and not worry too much about.
Yeah. They're not going on and on about what's going on right now with the Justice League. And,
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear that Wonder Woman is doing this thing?
Yeah.
Like, these heroes are off doing their own.
It's good
thing.
when they do things like that.
And that's what's refreshing about it. So here is the variant. This is the Pew variant, and there you have their building. Of course, you got some of the letters burned out. They haven't paid the bill to get the sign fixed or the bulbs replaced.
I like this idea that they bring up a lot in comics now about do heroes get paid. I know Harley was asking Batman about that.
For the stipend.
Like, apparently they don't. They can't really take donations or anything either.
Yeah, I mean, meanwhile, Wally West and Flash is getting a job.
Yeah.
Working for Mr. Terrific's company, and it's like, there's got to be a way for you to make money when you have the Speed
there has to
Force.
be an honest way. Like, you're doing good things. So, next up is Inferno number 3. So, this definitely feels like, even though the X-Men, are going to continue and everything, this is Jonathan Hickman's last story with the X-Men, and it feels like it. It feels like the culmination, the final act of a story. All the pieces that you've been following all along are, drawing nearer to each other. And in this, of course, we have the nation of Krakoa that seemed so strong, maybe forming some cracks in it due to, I don't want to say hurt feelings, but just upper management of Krakoa has not been great with Magneto and Professor X. So this issue actually begins in a super cool way where it is a flashback to before House and Powers of X, so long ago, and you learn how much this entire thing has been planned. So it seems like this, Krakoa has been naturally growing and all these mutants are coming here and everything. Well, this may have all been part of the plan. And the person who is not at the center of it, but had knowledge of it from the beginning is Cypher. Cypher, who is the kind of X-Men that people are like, why is he an X-Men? His ability is he can speak any language or translate anything, but it's not a combat power. You're not going to throw him in the middle of a fight. Well, if you're going to set up a island nation that speaks a whole new language that's only the people there, you need someone there to kind of create the language. And this gives Cypher an interesting in on the growing and the planning of Krakoa and the mutant nation that's going to be coming. And he may have, slipped an ear here or there where maybe the rest of the leaders didn't know, and is potentially the one character with the most knowledge out of any of this. So it's not a spoiler, that's just how it begins to show you maybe the characters you thought were in power, maybe there's stuff they don't know either. But a lot of this is about maybe finally questioning Professor X and Magneto's motives for Krakoa, and how Mystique and Destiny will play into all of this. We do know they teased a poster yesterday, day before yesterday, that gave the titles of a bunch of new X books that will be coming out. We don't know hardly anything about them, but it seems like that will be the next chapter in the X-Men story, and this is this one coming to a close. And it is the way it's going to be a pretty climactic ending that's not going to be pretty for any of the people involved in it. So I really like this issue. I think Inferno has been fun, especially if you have been with the X-Men since the House and Power story. You're seeing a lot of the stuff with Myra come back up, and it's really cool. It's cool to finally feel like all of the storylines are coming together at last. So that is Inferno number 3. And we have a Peach Momoko variant. Cool to see her do Magneto. It's kind of not your usual Peach Momoko cover. We have the Dakel variant. We have the Vega variant with Destiny on there. Really nice. And then we were discussing this, how it's funny. Sometimes they make these ratios and sometimes they make them open order. So if you're trying to collect them all, you need to be on the lookout. But this is the 1 in 25 Dodderman variant with all the multiple versions and costumes of characters that we are selling for $55.
All right, so another one from Marvel I was very much looking forward to read is Giant Size Black Cat Infinity Score One Shot. This is by Jed McKay, who's been writing Black Cat series, which has been really awesome and pretty popular around here. And of course, in her series, she's been working for a mysterious boss who some people have speculated is Doctor Doom. I speculated it is not Doctor Doom, but you'll have to read this issue to find out, because by the end of it, you will learn who she's been working for this whole time to collect up the Infinity Stones. Now, Infinity Stones are no longer on their own. They have bonded with people, so they have each one as a stone bearer. Like, for instance, Star has the reality gem. She's from Captain Marvel. She pretended she's a hero. She is not a hero. They've really built Star a lot in these issues as to what a jerk she is. I mean, she is so much more of a villain than hero. It's ridiculous. So Black Cat has gotten 3 of the stone bearers together, and what she knows is that when you put them close to each other, the closer the stones come into proximity to one another, the more powerful they get. That's why it's so powerful when you, I don't know, do the Infinity Gauntlet, because you have all the stones all together. It makes you a god. Whereas if you just have one stone and you're away from the others, you have a power. It's not nearly as powerful as if you're near the others. So in this issue, she's going to do her last part of the heist using only 3 of the stones. You'll find out why. There is a point to just having 3. And it takes place in a hospital, and I can't tell you what she's doing, but by the end, her whole plan comes out. You will learn who she is working for, why this whole thing has gone down. In fact, I didn't think they were going to wrap it up in this one, but they do. They wrap up her part of the Infinity Stone thing, at least for the near future, it looks like. So it's a very good issue. You got Nick Fury in it. You got Nighthawk in it. You know, all your major players that she's been battling all through her comic. You know, the dialogue, it's that great snappy dialogue that Jed McKay's been writing for her. You know, her and Star have had this sort of tension between them as Black Cat has had to blackmail Star into doing things, knowing Star is way more powerful than she is. So you'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But it did surprise me that it just sort of it ended it. Wrap more things up than I thought was going to get wrapped up in it. Also, I will say it says giant size. I think it's a 30-pager. It's $4.99.
Yeah, feeling it doesn't feel like a giant size.
It's not a double-sized issue or anything like that. So I'll have to let everyone know that. So we got some variants here. Here is the Ji Hung Lee variant. I really like this one.
If you look, her Infinity Gauntlet has like claws on it and stuff. It's like it's tailor made for her.
Yeah, and I mean, I've always liked Black Cat as a character, but this series has really reinvigorated her to where it's like, yeah, I want to see Black Cat get the Infinity Gauntlet. She's not such a bad person, really. She's a pretty good person.
And you
honestly.
see how a character with no powers can work in a world of superpowers.
That's what she's all, because she's smart.
Yeah.
She's just very, very good at planning, and she's got style. Somehow or another, it's a superpower when Black Cat uses her style. And so here is the other variant. Oh, this one was this is the Dave Johnson variant. So.
Awesome. So my next one is a super weird one that I did not know going into it what the tone of it would be. I remember talking about it on Comics from the Future, but this is Daisy. So the solicitation talked about this girl who was like a giant. She's like 9 feet tall, and you know, it's hard for her. Where does she get her clothes? Everything has to be custom made. And maybe she's descended from angels that fell and they became giants on Earth and everything. I thought this would be not like a heartwarming story, but like a how to fit in story, this character. I will say this is a very uncomfortable horror-esque story. I would almost equate it to tonally like Robert Kirkman's Outcast. Not so much in the like straight up horror, that kind of horror with a biblical tone to it. So in this we see it opens with this story from some kind of ancient text or long lost book of the Bible that they've made up in this about what happened when the angels fell, and who was the this angel that fathered all the giants and everything. And then we jump to present day, where we are introduced to a woman who is looking for her lost son. She lost him 5 years ago under mysterious circumstances. He was in the car and she turned around and the door was open and he was gone. She says it feels like he just stepped off the earth and was gone. But clues that they have led her to this house in this small town, and the sheriff is going to take her there, but kind of warns her that this is a very strange place and that this family has a daughter who she'll just have to see for herself. But we're introduced to the character Daisy, who is probably 9 feet, 10 feet tall, and is very in shadow and played less sympathetic and more very creepy. I don't know if we're going to see a different side of the character later and we sympathize with her or whatever. But I will say for this first one, there is kind of a twist ending that I did not see coming, especially with how the setup was going. And yeah, if you like that kind of foreboding, creepy, like, we're going to this house that's far away and we know that something bad's going to happen there. It's that kind of story. So just a new one from Dark Horse by Colin Lorimer, who does the art and the writing on it. Very interesting, not like anything I've ever really read before. So pretty cool read, and we just have the one cover for it.
I was hoping the twist wasn't that really Daisy is just 2 kids under a trench coat, like one around the other's shoulders.
You didn't want that. Maybe I was hoping for something like that.
Okay, so I read What's the Furthest Place from Here, #2. Issue #1 made a lot of waves. A lot of people picked that up. Very stylish book. I mean, just look at sort of the symbols on the building. It's got the different gangs and the different kids. So in this issue, what I'll say is if you liked issue 1, you'll like this issue. It's more of the same. Chapters with sort of weird names like kids would name it. Chapter names like yeah, whatever,
I thought you could
stuff
say like
stuff like that.
Booger or something, but maybe not that young.
Yeah, no, more like 15-year-olds with attitudes.
Yeah.
We get to meet some more of the gangs in this. There are the blue boys are in this. I think they may. Each gang is based off of like a job or a place you'd be. Because our main gang is in the record store.
Yeah.
I think the blue boys are based on cops, sort of.
Mm.
The bank kids that we met last issue, you get more of them, a little bit more of them. I think they're called Big Business, is what their gang is called. And there are the supermarket gang that you get to meet in this one. Other things that kind of happen, our main characters are out looking for their friend Sid, who disappeared last issue, and that's sort of the crux of why they're out past their base. You're not really supposed to leave your base very much, and so they run into these other gangs. They end up meeting and maybe taking in a gang member from another gang, which is pretty unheard of. You'll have to see how that goes, why that is, and also even by the end of the issue, I'm not sure if they're really going to accept this person. And lastly, they lose something pretty major in this issue. Something pretty important gets lost to them that is going to, whether they like it or not, set them off on a long journey. So that's a little bit of what's going on. But more than anything, if you like if the first issue jive with you, because the dialogue and the way they act and the way it's written, it's just different than other books. I know some people who really, really like this book, and I know some people it's just not for.
Mm-hmm.
The first issue was a great indicator on if you're going to enjoy continuing to read this. There's a lot of style in this book, and when you get stylish in certain ways, it's just not for everybody. Mm-hmm. It's just for certain people. So we have this variant. This is the Shelby variant. Once again, more of that style. Record album covers in a pattern. Weird words. Characters named Prufrock. Here is the 1 in 15 Cha variant that we're selling to our customers for $10. So the pig mask, that's the big business people the big business gang who lives in the banks.
I was gonna ask if they showed up.
They were in the first. Mask. They were in the first issue.
Okay.
And they're a little bit in this one. And then here's the 1 in 25 Menard variant for $15. Get to see a little map. And that's my last variant for that.
So, and we are still waiting on the record versions of these. So each issue,
they're delayed, and they've yet to tell us when they'll be here.
And I think each issue maybe is going to have that, but who knows when we'll get the record version for this. So if you're planning on going into your store and getting the record copy, you might have to wait weeks or months to get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up we have Marvel Voices Community. And this is the Latin and Latinx celebration issue by creators with characters from those communities. And this one was cool. This was, I feel like they've kind of hit their rhythm with these. It's a pretty hard thing to do, is base an entire comic off of, a theme like a race or any kind of people, when it's like, well, that's not driving the story. But I think they've done it long enough now that we actually have some really cool stories in them that progress the characters. So the first one in there is about Eva, who is from the Reptile series.
Yep. Reptile's cousin.
Yeah, who was a pretty big shocker that we found out that, when you read that series and then we found out that, that character is like going to be a big deal and everything.
Yep, she was teaching herself magic, and that magic was a major part of that series.
Well, this has the story of her joining Strange Academy, which, that's what I mean. I like that it's actually like, it's cool when we get stories about the character in a day in the life or whatever, but I always want, characters to grow and learn and move with their lives and everything and get some progression. And this is something that I think, if you want to read the story of where she ends up at the school if you're reading Strange Academy that happens in this. So I think that's really cool. The stories have some narrative to them. We also get stories with White Tiger, not only the current version, but a previous version of White Tiger. We get a Reptile story. We get Miles Morales, which I think is really cool. This Miles story actually has him interacting with Spider Girl, who I'm not sure if we've ever seen him meet her in like any other
You
story.
talking about Anya Corazon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't to my knowledge.
Yeah, so there is a story with them and them kind of like what's their relationship? Like two spider people meeting each other
Right.
and everything. And he's wearing his new costume in this, even though on the covers he's not wearing it. So it's like an in continuity story. There's America Chavez story. There is a Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider story, which is really cool. Uh, he does a thing that I always wish that writers who write that character used more. And maybe they have, and I just haven't read them. But he actually has the ability to imbue the Hellfire into other forms of vehicles. It's not just the Hell Charger; he can do it to other things. And in this one, he does it to a train, and it is a super cool looking train. After that, there's a bunch of stories. There's also one page stories. There's some stories I didn't mention. So this is a pretty chock full book. It's kind of an extra sized one. It is $9.99, but you get a lot of story in that. This is our main cover. We have our Bustos cover. We have the Zetro variant. I really like this one. It's a lot of fun. Got Reptile in there. You got Miles, America. This is a pretty cool one because I don't even know if she's appeared on any other covers. But this is the Eva cover. This is by Ramos. They're really building her up to be a thing. She's appearing in a lot more. And then finally we have the Wolf variant. Really cool.
All right, so I have to say that probably my favorite read of the week was Batman 89, issue number 4. This book, just the regular cover is just $3.99. It has a cardstock variant I'll show later for $4.99. So right off the bat, on the cover we have the new Robin, who we've met in the other books, but I've mentioned every time as good a read as this has been, as great a read as this has been. They keep showing him as Robin, and it's like he's not really Robin. He's not really Robin. It finally goes down in this one. I mean, he kind of is, but he's not Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
But the thing happens in this, and it's done so well. I was just so delighted how this one was written. But let me back up for a second. So it begins, there's going to be a peaceful protest about everything that's been going on in the city, about what happened to Harvey Dent. However, the protest is having problems. There are certain people who want to break it up, to harass it. And the new Robin, who we see on the cover, he shows up to defend it, and he defends it in some pretty clever ways. He doesn't just help them, he helps them help themselves. You know, it's not in a way that's mean, it's not in a way where a lot of people get hurt, but they're able to go ahead and have their protest because of things that he does. So right away, they show how effective and smart this new Robin is. He's not just about punching. He has good planning, and he has clear motives as to what he's doing and who he's helping and why. Next, however, he goes to have dinner. Well, he goes to Bruce Wayne's house because they've had enough run-ins now. He feels certain he knows Bruce Wayne's secret, that he is Batman. And it's the way this is written, it so feels like the first two movies where Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne, he jokes around issues. I mean, you can like literally hear how Michael Keaton would be saying these lines, and they're so snappy. They're so good as far as you're trying to say, "I got this evidence on you," and he just can talk rings around you in just his funny, I don't care sort of way. And he almost wins, but of course, Robin has some tricks up his sleeve as far as how he's going to prove it. And you'll just have to see how he does it. It's very amusing, it's very clever. And the two of them finally do strike up an official partnership. But it's not the way that I think Batman has ever gained a Robin in anything I've ever read. It's not such a huge departure, but it is definitely different and in a way that really delighted me. I thought was great. The other part of the story is what's going on with Harvey Dent. His face got scarred up. He is turning into Two-Face. Now, Two-Face has been done a lot of different ways. They're going with the way where it is like he has two personalities, which I like. Yeah, they did that real well on the animated series. I always think back to that one as much as I read comics. But they're definitely doing it where there's the Harvey Dent, and then there's this evil side and their arguments and their talks and their squabbles of what to do. So you get to see how that develops, where that's going. The whole thing is just great. It all reads like the guy who's writing it, who's the original scriptwriter for Batman #1 and 2, Sam Hamm. He is an excellent writer. I really hope he gets to do more comics, and I hope this gets turned into something. This would make a great animated movie as far as the unofficial third Tim Burton Batman. So, excellent read. I know everyone around here has been reading it and enjoying it. The 4th issue will not disappoint. And then we have this really cool variant for just $4.99 by Babs Tarr. And you do get a little bit more Catwoman in this issue. She's more talked about than in it, though. But the part where she's talked about is a really cool part.
So next up, I have a DC book. This is World of Krypton #1 by Robert Venditti and Michael Avon Oeming. And this is interesting. This is, I mean, you could probably guess about Krypton before it was destroyed.
It wouldn't be that interesting. After it's destroyed, it's
no, it'd just be
rubble.
asteroids floating around. But no, I mean, they could do a story about Kandor or something. But so this is, I would say, more of a political intrigue and what they say. It's like there's rumblings of kind of, it's the beginning of the end. So we see some of the early maybe hints of Krypton's destruction, because the natural occurring event that eventually destroys it, where scientists are starting to see weird things happening. They're investigating, they're bringing it to the ruling families like the Elves and in the Science Council, and you know, they're being paid attention to, but there's other matters to attend to first. One of those is a naming ceremony for one of the main character's daughters that they're going to name Kara. So you can kind of see what time frame this takes place in. But also how some people on Krypton don't like the House of El or the family of El and what they're going to do to try to stop it. It's an interesting read for a story where we know where it ends. You know, that's always a hard thing to do.
Right.
It's kind of, you know, watching Anakin turn into Darth Vader. You're never like, this guy, he's going to attack him. Is his plan going to work? Well, it's like, well, I know this guy ends up over here, so... But to see kind of a more in-depth look at the last days of Krypton is very interesting, especially with kind of the looming threat of Krypton's destruction. I think eventually this series will get to. So if you like that kind of, it's not, there is action in it, but it's not like Superman punching a giant robot, because on Krypton they didn't have those powers. It's more about the different families and how they interact and the people who maybe oppose them. So that is World of Krypton #1. This is going to be a 6-issue miniseries. Also, we have a variant for it, but it is sold out.
All right, from Marvel, I read the next part of Death of Doctor Strange in Death of Doctor Strange Blade. This is a one-shot that is showing part of the fallout of what happens when the Sorcerer Supreme dies, how it affects all the other heroes that are close to him. And this starts by showing you how close Blade and Doctor Strange were, because years and years back they went up against Dracula and the vampires, and they pretty much killed them all. They destroyed most all the vampires, defeated Dracula, and so Blade really feels bad about his old friend. Who, if you want to make Blade your friend, go kill some vampires with him, because that's, I think, the only thing he cares about.
It's a good bonding
vampires.
experience.
Yeah. So with Doctor Strange dead, the other thing to know about this book is Blade had recently, this happened back in Avengers and at the end of King in Black, he had been made the sheriff of the vampires. So the vampires helped beat Null in King in Black, but in return, so they were like, we just want to be left alone. We won't kill people anymore, but just quit hunting us down. So Blade was put in as their sheriff, which he doesn't like, but I mean, who better to control them?
Yeah.
So this book is giving you some of your first glimpses of what's it like for Blade to be sheriff of the vampires, but then what's it like when Doctor Strange dies and all the vampires are really happy. This is a guy who killed their kind. Yeah. They're super duper happy. So funny enough, the villain of this is not necessarily the vampires. They kind of are. Some new enemy shows up that Blade has to fight, and I guess the other thing I'll say is I think this is the first time I've seen this sort of thing in a Marvel book. It probably was in some I haven't read, but there's a psychic vampire that Blade has to go up against. So that's sort of the new big villain in this issue. That was really interesting. Like, what is that? How does it work? Pretty effective, pretty mean creature. So all that goes down in this book with the fallout of Doctor Strange not being around, Blade's duties, which are already heavy, become double duties of having to sheriff the vampires, and now there's these new psychic vampire and other creatures. That's what you're in for if you pick this book up for a read. And we do not have the variant for it. All sold out of that.
Okay, my next one's one I'm just going to mention, but let you know it's out. This is Amazing Spider-Man 80. It sounds weird saying 80.bay. B-E-Y. It's .beyond. This is, as you can see on the cover, dealing with Doc Ock, less to do with Spider-Man, because this is exploring the relationship between Aunt May and Doc Ock, which they had a little romance for a while, and kind of where it's currently standing, how we do see a little bit lead into Doc Ock in Devil's Reign, what he's going to be doing in there, just a little nod to that. But a pretty significant event for Peter Parker, who, is still currently in the hospital. Some update on what's going on with him in this as well. So this is not the official issue 80. This is one of your little in-between issues, the dot whatevers that they do. And yeah, so fun issue. I didn't get to read it super serious. I just got to skim through it, but looked fun. We have a variant for that one as well. And this is the Dowling variant.
And if you want something completely different, from Aftershocks Comics is Tales of Mother F Goose. This is a one-shot. This is prestige plus size. Meaning it's that sort of wider magazine size. So what is this about? This is it's like Mother Goose characters mixed into a mob crime drama. That's what it's about. You have, for instance, you got Georgie Porgy. He is a murdered pimp in this. That's where the story kind of starts. You've got Jack Horner and Little Miss Muffet as detectives trying to figure out who did it. And of course, Jack Horner, he's such a hard-nosed detective. He has 3 suspects, and guess where they are? They're all in the trunk of his car. So a lot of it is you go into each of the suspects' pasts, and you get to see who they are and how they relate. mostly in name, a little bit in personality to Mother Goose characters, but really it's very much a mob story. A lot of blood, a lot of messed up stuff. If you want to see an artist draw a Colombian necktie, it's in there. And that's what it is. It's long too. I mean, it took me a while to read it. So there's a lot of story here. So if you want something real different, you may want to check out Tales of Mother F Goose. They claim on the cover that it will ruin your childhood. So
That
I
happened a
don't
long time ago.
I don't think it ruined my child. I'm still in my childhood. I run a comic store.
It's true.
But check this out. We have this variant, this Pulp Fiction homage variant we're selling for $15. It's a 1 in 10. And the Uma Thurman Goose character. I think the book she's reading, I think it's called Plume Fiction. And I think it says something about a foul murder, spelled, Fowl.
That's
So,
an Amanda Connor cover.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
So $15 for our customers while supplies last.
But in it, there is not actually anthropomorphic goose person, right?
No, there's not. In fact, Mother Goose is actually just a big mob dude.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising about
That's
that.
pretty weird. Okay, next up is a book that I did not get a chance to read, but it is a new book from Boombox, which is the all-age imprint at Boom, called Buckhead, which is actually a place that's only a few hours away from here if it's the same Buckhead. This is, from what it says, this is a 5-issue series described as a Afrofuturist book about a family experiencing the weird town and strange people of Buckhead, USA. So, yeah, I wish I got a chance to read it, but I did not. Boom always does a really good job with their all-age things as well as their regular stuff. And there is a variant for this. Let's see. And then we have the 1 in 10 Sabaya video game homage variant, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'd say Final Fantasy VII.
I think, yeah,
That
with the
looks like
sword.
Cloud sword right
Yeah,
there.
with 7. So, really cool. I think a lot of people will like that. I mean, some big Final Fantasy fans out there.
Yeah. Okay, so another mind-bending issue. I read Crossover number 10. This is less of an action issue, more of a thinking issue. A lot of it is an interrogation scene between the cops from the Powers comic, who've been in Crossover quite a bit, and who are they interrogating? They're interrogating Brian Michael Bendis, their creator. So, I mean, right there, Donny Casey's just having a hell of a lot of fun writing that. Just when you have fictional characters interviewing their creator, but it's not even being written by him. Bendis didn't write this.
Yeah.
So an outside writer is writing that. It's mind bending.
You may get a good idea of what they think about that person, or like, you're putting words in my mouth.
Yeah.
This stuff.
So why are they interviewing Bendis? Well, because somebody has been murdering comic writers. And, it's funny because Bendis doesn't quite believe the whole situation. It's good, but that's about half of the comic right there. And there is a surprise ending where another major comic writer is introduced into the comic. It'll make some of your jaws drop when you see who it is. Some of you might chuckle and some of you might groan. It just depends on how you feel about this particular book, putting this particular writer in the book. And I can't say another word, otherwise I'll spoil it. Okay, here is the Burnett variant. And we also have the 1 in 25 Shaw Virgin variant for $20. Not a lot of Ellie in this one. She gets talked about. Everyone in the book knows why she's important now because she's such an anomaly. That she's this character who's not really from a comic, but she's not in it much. It's more about growing the other characters and what's going on.
Donny Cates must be sitting there at his computer when he's writing this, being like, I can't believe I'm writing this. Like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
Okay, one I just want to show off next is NYX or Nyx, not NYX. I always want to call it that because it's the first appearance of X-23 book. This is Nyx number 2. But one showed off because this is a Rose Besch cover, but this is not a variant. She's actually doing the A covers for the foreseeable future, as far as I've seen for this series. So if you are a Rose Besch collector, this is just a pretty easy one to get. You're not spending a lot of money on giant ratio numbers or anything. But also, this book had some other really cool variants. So this is, I believe, is this our first of the McFarlane homage that has come out?
We show so many. It's like hard to remember which ones were we showing because they're orderable and how many have actually gotten here.
But if you're interested in getting the McFarlane 300 homage, Todd McFarlane didn't draw these, but they're an homage to Spider-Man 300. That was a little hard to see because of the colors, but this is one for Nyx. And then we have a little bit easier to see on this one. This is the 1 in 11 black and white variant that we are selling for $15. And then we have the 1 in 30 Besche variant. It's just a line art, but really cool that they're using that hot pink to do it. And we are selling this one for $30.
All right, so from Scout Comics is Third Wave 99. Now, I remember when we talked about this when they first had it up for order, and they claimed this is a true life story about what happened with this popular surf clothing from the 90s called Third Wave 99. And I did a deep dive because I just, I know a lot about Florida.
We spent a lot
I know
of
a lot
time
about
on
the
that.
90s. And I was like, okay, they're either changing the name or this is just not true. I will still say it is not true. There was no Third Wave 99. They may be taking bits of stories from different things. So this takes place in Cocoa Beach. I can't tell you how many times I've been to Cocoa Beach. I mean, I may not look like it. I know I'm pale. But I really, I grew up around the beach. And Cocoa Beach is one of the closest, nicest beaches when you go to Orlando. So anytime you go to Orlando, you want to go to a beach, that's where you end up. Now, the main place there is Ron John Surf Shop.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're playing a little off of that. We were talking about other things they might have been playing off of too.
Yeah, a lot of different brands and stuff.
Yeah. So, but Scout has set up a site where you could buy clothing. It's like, we're back. It's Third Wave clothing. I think that's neat. That's cool. They're not trying to be jerks. They're just having fun. They're doing different things. They're trying to meld fiction and reality. And, that can be a really cool thing. So the comic itself, it is about this clothing company. It's a bunch of surfers, and they started their company as a way to get away from bad habits, like too much drinking. It's a healthy thing to do. Join a surf club. But it turned into a store. It turned into a brand. And it's not that big yet. I think we're seeing the rise part in issue 1 before we see the fall, because I think this is a mini-series.
Yeah.
But it looks like by the end of it, Mob's going to get involved in some way. This issue, it's a lot of talking, a lot of meeting your beachy characters. Who's that shirtless person? Who's that in the onesie bikini thing? You're meeting all your characters. Of course, there's always beach villains. There's always characters that are mean at the beach, so you get a fight in there. But really, it looks like some illegal money might be making its way to them. And of course, that could always ruin your brand. So that's what it's about. If you want something a little different, there are no superheroes in this. This is definitely what indie books are for, to tell you a whole different kind of story that maybe you didn't know you wanted to know about.
Does anyone hang 10?
There's plenty of hang 10. I mean, right on the cover there, it starts with somebody hanging 10 so hard they almost drown.
Man.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm from Tennessee.
Here is Louis the 13th variant. It's a 1 in 10 for $10. And lastly, we have this secret VHS tape variant. I don't know how rare this is. Maybe 1 per store for $45.
I like all
the 90s.
All the stickers on there. They're like Be Kind, Rewind, and all of that is really fun.
Yep.
So next up, I have our next installment of the Best of in the Ninja Turtles series. This is Best of Shredder. So, like always, these collect some hand-picked best stories for that character. This is really cool because I mean we've been through quite a few at this point.
Yeah.
But love this one. Love Shredder. You get I think you even get Ninja Turtles #1 in this because I think that's his first appearance. Is just in the first issue where they throw him into a dumpster. It's less climactic than what it eventually becomes, but it goes all the way up. I think it's got an issue of Shredder and Hell and some of the recent stuff. So a lot of really cool things that you may not be able to get a hold of too easily collected in this.
And I believe it's 100 pages for I think $5.99.
Yeah.
So they make it pretty affordable for what you're getting.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so the last one I'm going to talk about just briefly is Soul Plumber #3 is out. This book has been a huge hit because it is written by the last podcast on the left folks. It has been a wild read. I didn't have time to break open this issue #3. I read the first two. I will read this later. It looks to me like they got some messed up sort of Knights of Templar guy on there, probably going to go after that supposed demon, or that our main character has pulled out. I mean, look at that. He's at a gas station. We know that's where our main character used to work and spend a lot of time. So I already have some guesses as to what goes down this issue, but I just wanted to show it off. We like to let you know all the major books that are coming out, so look for this one at your local store.
And lastly, for me, one that this is a fan base that whenever there's a new one, they are thrilled.
Yes.
Been going for a long time, but you don't get them too often. But this is Lady Mechanica, the Monster of the Ministry of Hell #1. So this is a new Lady Mechanica miniseries. This time published through Image, who it's been published off and on through either his own publishing little house where he only does his own thing. I think at some point Image did do it before, but for those big fans of Lady Mechanica, you have something new, and it seems like something pretty reliable that's going to come out on a decent basis, not just a one shot. And this seems to be an origin story of somewhat, where you see how Lady Mechanica got her Mechanica parts.
Yeah, it's where because I was leafing through it. I love the art. So Joe Benitez, his art. He's the writer. He's the artist. There is a co-writer on this one, but he is still the main writer, and he does all the art, the cover. If you like the cover, the interiors look like it. But it's the story where she wakes up and she has mechanical limbs suddenly. So how shocking would that be?
So really cool. We have that, and then we have a 1 in 10 variant. It's the sketch variant that we are selling for $15.
All right. Well, that is our show for this week. A lot of really cool comics to go over. I think it's a very exciting week. I hope we've done our job and we've explained these comics a little bit better to you, showed off the cover so you can make your little list and go in your store and know what you want, know which ones sound the best to you. If we have done that, then that makes us happy. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe. Our numbers keep creeping up there. We're going to make it to 1 million subscribers someday.
Yes, absolutely.
Bring comics back from the thresholds that they've reached. we're gonna have it where more people are reading the comics than watching the movies and shows combined.
Wow, that is bold.
I joke, but no, it is really cool to be able to go over this stuff. That is the foundation for all this other great work that's being done on it now. So I'm really happy that people don't think it's weird at all to be in the comics anymore.
No, finally, we're the cool guys.
And we get to add our little part every single week, as we will continue to do. So in the meantime, y'all, just keep reading comics and keep watching our show. We appreciate that, and we will see you next week.